Thank you and good evening, everybody, and welcome to this evening's meeting, full council meeting of Bother District Council. Can I just remind people about the microphones? Please can I remind members to speak directly and clearly into the microphones. Please do not move the microphones. They've been placed in the optimal point for picking up your speech. Please be careful not to hold documents between you and the microphone, as this will muffle the sound quality. And also, please remember one push on and one push off when you finish. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 1, do I have your approval to sign the minutes of the meeting, council meeting held on the 5th of July as a correct record of the proceedings? Thank you. Thank you. Item 2, any apologies for absence, please?
Yes, Chairman. Councillors Bird, Gio1, Langlands, Madeley and Robin Bennard, Assistant Director of Resources.
Thank you. Agenda item 3, disclosures of interest. Are there any disclosures by members of personal and disclosable pecuniary interests in matters on the agenda? If so, please declare the nature of any such interest and whether members regard the personal interest as prejudicial under the terms of the Code of Conduct. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Chairman. I have a personal interest in agenda item 12, because my husband is chair of the local CPRE branch.
Thank you. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Agenda item 12 is an executive member of East Sussex County Council, so that would be a personal interest.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby.
Thank you. I believe I've got to register an interest as I'm a member of the East Sussex County Council.
Thank you.
And so agenda 18, so number 12.
Thank you. Councillor Barnes. John Barnes.
A question rather than a declaration. In view of one of the motions on the paper, should we declare a personal interest as directors of Alliance Housing? I don't think it's pertinent. It certainly is not prejudicial.
Indeed, I agree with you. I don't think it's pertinent because it's a question from a councillor to a member of the executive, and we do not have anything to say on the matter. Otherwise, I'd be declaring that as well. Thank you. Councillor Field.
Item 12, member of East Sussex County Council, it's personal.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, Mr. Johnson.
Chairman, I declare an interest in agenda item 7. If called, I will leave the room. Obviously, it's of their personal and arguably prejudicial interest to me, and certainly financial.
Thank you. Are there any further disclosures? Thank you. Members are reminded to reiterate those interests at the time the matter is being discussed. Thank you. Now, agenda item 4, my communications. Since our last meeting, my official diary has gained a few entries, and I've managed to get out of Bexhill for some of them. My first was to a reception held by the East Sussex County Council Chairman, Councillor Peter Pragnell, for East Sussex mayors, chairs and County Council lead members at Hendall Manor to mark the retirement of the Lord Lieutenant Sir Peter Field. The evening provided an opportunity to catch up with officials from our surrounding authorities. I understand today that Councillor Pragnell is unwell, and I wish him on our behalf a full and speedy recovery. Having had to decline an invitation to a boat naming ceremony with Rye Harbour Sailability because of a previous commitment, I was so pleased when they invited me to visit this charity with a difference later on in July. Under the captaincy of Caroline Wilson, it's my pun, not hers, this group of 25 volunteers provide people with differing abilities the opportunity to experience sailing on the Rother in Rye Harbour. Timing and duration of the sessions obviously depends on the tides, and I was amazed just how far the water comes up the jetty at Rye Harbour Sailing Club and how quickly it seems to recede when people are out enjoying themselves on the water. During my visit, I met some of the volunteers, sampled a delicious bacon sandwich, and spoke to some of the users, including a regular who is visually impaired He just loves the feeling of being out on the water. Rye Harbour Sailability are always looking for more users and volunteers to make use of the 3 boats they currently operate. They have recently launched an appeal to raise funds to purchase a new venture dinghy. They were kind enough to invite me to one of their fundraising events as well, which was an evening of opera for late summer at Winchelsea New Hall, where I had the pleasure of meeting once again the Mayor of Winchelsea, David Page. Some of you will know that being chairman of Rother District Council brings with it the role of president of the Bexhill Open Bowls tournament. Having been cancelled in 2020, I'm glad to say that the 82nd tournament was able to go ahead in the first week of August. Although attendance was understandably down, some 180 bowlers took part in the week-long competition. I discovered that quite a few come from further afield and stay in Bexhill for the week, taking part in non-bowling activities such as pub quizzes and curry nights. As president, I visited the greens in Edgerton Park and the Polgrove on the Sunday before the official opening to welcome those bowlers who were happy to play in the preliminary rounds. I returned on Monday to welcome everyone officially and invite the Mayor of Bexhill, Councillor Paul Plim, to bowl the first bowl. I also attended finals day. Having been introduced to the joys of bowling through an official visit as chairman in 2020, I have my entry form ready for 2022. Bexhill Day, 22nd of August, was rediscovered this year, having been first established in 1907 as an appeal day for the Bexhill Trust. This year I was invited as chairman to welcome Mr. Simon Corello, one of Her Majesty's Deputy Lord Lieutenants for East Sussex, to an event during which Bexhill Day was being marked by Bexhill Town Council. I was on hand again to welcome both Mr. Andrew Blackman, the Lord Lieutenant of East Sussex, and Mr. Miles Jenner, the High Sheriff of East Sussex, to an event in this chamber. The event on the 1st of September was held by the former Bexhill Charter trustees to allow the 2 immediate past mayors to recognise individuals and organisations for their contributions to the town that the COVID pandemic had prevented them from doing so within the terms of their office. On Wednesday, the 8th of September, I was invited to the Mermaid Inn in Rye to celebrate the launch of a free app called A Rye Good Time. This app tells you exactly what's happening, where's where, who's who in Rye in the palm of your hand. Having met Arabella Ansar, the project lead, I understand why this is such a user-friendly app. Within 5 minutes of meeting her, I think most people will have said yes to whatever she asked for. And in Rye's case, a lot of talented, creative people said yes. The development of this app was supported by Visit 1066 Country and Rother District Council, and I can highly recommend downloading it should members wish to navigate their way around Rye. I'm hoping in due course that it can be replicated in other parts of the district. On the Friday just gone, I attended the official opening of the revamped 1066 Country Walk and was able to thank all those, involved in the project. This 31-mile pathway from Pevensey Castle to Rye, which follows part of the route the Normans took in 1066, has been regenerated thanks to the efforts of Donna Hall, our Cultural Development and Events Officer, who obtained EU funding for the project, persuaded a huge number of organisations and individuals to come on board to deliver it. The support from, among others, 1066 Country, is Sussex County Council Rights of Way team, English Heritage, the Sussex Sign Company, 18 Hours Limited, videographer Sam Moore, illustrator Ness Mann, and sculptor Keith Pettit. The result is a major addition to our district. Serious walkers can do the 1066 walk in one go, but for the rest of us normal humans, it naturally breaks into 6 5-mile sections, each taking 3 to 4 hours to complete. The wonderful scenery and medieval landscape of the route are enhanced by Keith Pettit's 10 amazing wooden sculptures based on scenes from the Bayeux Tapestry. From the landings at Pevensey Castle to a debatable beech tree, it's definitely a tree, in Rye. It is hoped that walkers will benefit businesses along the route and that those from further afield will stay locally. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend events in Battle and Rye, and as Pevensey Castle is in Wealdon District, the official cutting of the ribbon there was performed by Councillor Ron Reid, the chairman of Wealdon District Council. Also, I'd like to mention last week how to age well in the 21st century, our own event held in the Delaware Pavilion. I'd like to thank those of our staff who were involved, various local groups who attended the event, making it the success it was. I'm not sure I've seen that much grey hair in one place before, but the information presented, the information presented on things to do, the taster exercise sessions and the presentations on how to take care of yourself as you get older were very well attended and very well received. I hope that it can be repeated and that perhaps a roadshow version could be developed to spread the message across all of Rother. I've got one less to say, but Councillor Maynard, did you want to say something now, or sorry?
Just to say that, to give an update to members, that Councillor Peter Bracknell is improving. He's out of COVID, and they're just managing his diabetes now. So he'll be in for a few more days yet, but he's improving well.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard. Stop press. I'm just going to mention the referendum on Thursday on the Battle Neighbourhood Plan gave a positive result. So remind us, you all, that we are holding an extraordinary council meeting here at 5:30 p.m. on Monday, the 18th of October, as a result of it. Thank you. Now, members, in accordance with paragraph 3(2)(a) of the council procedure rules, I'll exercise my discretion as chairman of the council in favour of varying the order of the business so that agenda item 9, Mr. Stuart Drew's presentation on the Delaware, can be taken now. So agenda item 9, Councillor Oliver. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone against? Negative that? No, thank you. That's resolved. Thank you. Mr. Drew.
Thank you. It's really lovely to see everybody and to be here in person rather than on Teams or Zoom. So really lovely to see you, and thanks for inviting me in. It was really nice to do an update earlier in the year on Teams and to see everybody. I'm really here to report back on the year 2020-2021, and you should have my full report in your packs. Which, considering we were really only open for 89 days during that period, I hope you'll agree it's a fairly full report. What I'd like to do is just do a very quick canter through a few slides which really document what's been going on and some of the highlights of what is an incredibly challenging period for us all, really. The presentation's called Powering Through the Pandemic. I think we've powered through the pandemic and we're all now slightly tired, but trying to keep on going. So pre-pandemic, it was really lovely to open Zadie Shah's show and Mark Bauer's show in our galleries, which actually turned out to be very timely and very appropriate, really, particularly Zadie's show. Based on the environment and a kind of underwater context, a very calming context, because they actually turned out to be some of our longest running exhibitions ever, actually going right through from that. I think they opened in February 2020, right through to the beginning of the current year. But as I say, just open for 89 days during that period. But being very busy, and as I'm sure you're aware, both with exhibitions and with live events in that period. And lots of other events, almost running, we were running at about 40% over capacity at that point. And then, as we know, apologies for reading The Guardian, but as we know, kind of this is March 2020, really hit us and was actually quite staggering for us. It felt very odd to be closing the venue down, a venue that's at the heart of the community and is very much there for civic use, as well as lots of other things, to be shutting those doors and very much trying to work through the very vague government guidance at that point, particularly as we had some really big mass gatherings and full full capacity events. So quite a challenging time for us. Also trying to work out what was going on with business interruption insurance and all those kind of things that go with it, and still working on that to this day. Our priorities over the last year have, of course, been survival. You will have seen some of the finances, you would have seen some of the headlines that we pretty much lost 1.1 million pounds worth of income overnight at that point. And our fundraising team, you know, generously supported by yourselves, and Culture Recovery Fund from Arts Council and DCMS, but with other generous support from other trusts and foundations too, has meant that we've been able to replace that income, and we've been able to come through so far in a reasonably strong position. Of course, we've been looking after our staff. Lots of people on furlough. I think we were down to 8 members of staff working at one point from a payroll pre-pandemic of about 120 people. It's been a real juggle in looking after everybody and managing those that are working and that are pretty exhausted, but also the mental health of those that have been on furlough and have been affected by that too, of course. So a real challenge. Programming and rescheduling, we've rescheduled 100 events, all of which are part of national tours, so comedy and music and community events during that period. So it's been very much a full-time job of just continually moving. Some events have been moved 4 or 5 times, and in fact are still being rescheduled now because of the pandemic and the knock-on of it. And then really trying to manage that and really trying to manage the stamina of the team. And then I politely called it reopening planning, but I guess it was called closing planning, reopening planning, closing planning, reopening planning. But we've tried, of course, to remain open as much as possible and to get staff back to work, to be paying staff. That includes freelancers and the ecology around us and our suppliers around us, most of which are from the Bexhill and the Rother area, and to keep on rolling and to bring our audiences through too. So we've been adapting. I think we've been pretty agile in what we've done. We've tried to build resilience as we've gone through and really tried to backfill to make sure that if there's further problems, we can cope with those further problems, including as we go into the autumn now. And then we've really tried to look for opportunities in all of this and see how we can develop opportunities. You know, we've been working with Rother on Levelling Up, for example. We've also been working on other programmes. Been working with Sidley to try and bring some funding in as well for projects in Sidley, for example. So we've really tried to keep going and to try and secure as much fund. There's actually been a reasonable amount of funding available for those kind of projects, so to keep going. So just to canter through a few things, I'm really sorry I wasn't at the launch on Friday, being chair of 1066, but I had a board meeting, unfortunately. It was important to attend and to be there, of course. 1066 Country have been amazing. They've really supported the membership. I can't really take any personal credit for that. But Kevin Borman and the team in Hastings and Melanie Powell here and Wilden have really been amazing in supplying information to all those businesses right across the 1066 region. I mean, they've had lots and lots of really positive feedback. And all that rebranding and repositioning of the website and the launch of things like the 1066 Walk are very, very well timed. And I'd really like to pay tribute. They've gone over and above. A lot of the board meetings, including our own, have met monthly. 1066, through the really difficult moments, met monthly too. I've also become chair of East Sussex Music, which is the music service providing services to schools for the development of music. And in fact, we've been working with the Brighton and Hove service as well over that period. And it's the same with them, very much helping them navigate the music service through what's been going on in schools and the challenges that schools have been facing and the flip onto online delivery as well. And we're now going through a merger between Brighton and Hove and East Sussex Music Service as well. So I'm really I'm really pleased to be chairing that. We've also met weekly pretty much with all the other cultural institutions right across the region, Hastings Contemporary, Towner, Glyndebourne, you name it, all the institutions we've met weekly. We've really kind of hunted as a pack, supported each other through the difficult times, shared information about the coronavirus restrictions and about funding. It's been really nice. It's been really nice to work with everybody. And then with certain partners, for instance, with Towner, we've been running lots of marketing campaigns. We've been trying to structure marketing campaigns to give us those boosts when we've been able to reopen. This is just pre-summer, which is a London billboard campaign. Ironically, I never noticed there's a John Grant poster in the background who also performed a sellout gig on Friday night. I'd never noticed that until this evening. But real massive campaigns promoting both Bexhill and Eastbourne going through. And then, of course, also working with Sussex Modern that I know Rother has supported. But we've also had some fairly significant grants from Sellet and have been running campaigns to complement what's been going on at 1066, giving out business support grants to businesses, information and webinars, and then really trying to raise the level of the visitor spend, trying to attract higher spending visitors and trying to disperse people around the region, not just on Camber Beach, for example. So that work's been going on. We've survived a lot actually on our trailer bar, which has finally had a reskin. I don't know whether you've noticed, and got a really nice Bexhill map on it. It's come away from being the rusty bar. But it's really kept us going, allowed us to adapt, operate outside. The outdoor bar facility on the events has been really lovely in the evenings, allowed people to have that safe space, COVID safe space outside. And of course, Music's Not Dead. It's been a joy to work with them, putting on events. And they've been working inside and outside with us, being really adaptable. The team have kept us really safe up until the recent relaxation. We've run a pretty COVID secure operation. We've been very tight on that. We've wanted to keep open and to keep the public safe. And the team have just been incredible and faced lots of challenges, including kind of members of the public being very challenging in terms of mask wearing and social distancing and all those kinds of things. It's been very challenging, but they've done a really brilliant job. And as a result, last year, we ran lots and lots of socially distanced events, lots with Eddie. Eddie was really brilliant in terms of getting people back to work for us and running break-even events both here, and we produced some events in Eastbourne as well. It was really, really good to keep that going. And of course, to launch Eddie's film on Sky, internationally on Sky. There's pretty much nobody else in the building when this was filmed. It was right in the middle of the pandemic, but done legally, but it was just them and a film crew operating. Never have I seen a film premiere without anybody there. But I guess that's the kind of nature of the event. But global reach, launched in the States and Canada. While we've been closed, we've managed to do a lot on the building, replace some of those really horrible, 4 of the worst panes in the south staircase window. We've replaced the boilers, we've replaced the port floor in the cafe, we've fixed the front doors, we've converted a lot of lighting to LED. There's a bit of a long list, really, of trying to do as much as possible. Historic England and Heritage Lottery Fund have been really brilliant in supporting us. As I said, there's been some funding streams coming through that we've taken advantage of to do those works. Over 4,000 people have engaged in online programs for families, artists, audiences in general, live streaming, most of which has been, this is my living room at home, have been produced from the living room at home and elsewhere in my colleagues' living rooms. But we've really kept rolling with those digital programs, and we hope to continue that as well. Really aided accessibility. Another really brilliant event with nobody there, but was really to highlight the position of the pavilion, highlight the plight of people, freelancers and people within the music industry and performers, and was really there to keep us on the map and to keep the lights on in those winter months. We had lots of feedback from the public that they were really pleased that the lights were on and that we got LEDs, just to say they were all LEDs, all energy efficient, but really to say that we're still here and we still care about the community. A great big art exhibition showing 400 people's work in our gallery windows, working right across the community, which has been a programme working with First Sight in Colchester. Has been really, really brilliant. It's really nice to do that and see how we can build on that, working with lots of local schools. And then brilliantly to get Holly Hendry in. Holly Hendry was a £1.3 million funded programme right along the coast with Visit England and Arts Council. So there's been lots of press off the back of it. I know you'll probably affectionately know it as the Worm, but invertebrate, but it's had lots of lovely press and was matched with Pandemic Patchworks with the Refugee Buddy Project as well in the first floor gallery. And then really wonderful across the summer. Visitor numbers have come from about 250 a day last year. So we actually did 23,000 visitors last year from the normal 420,000. It was a bit of a drop. To this summer's been near enough 1,000 a day. So it's really brought those numbers back up and lots of press. And also attracted Councillor Oliver and Councillor Timpey with the tourism minister, a visit from the tourism minister, which again was really, really, really brilliant to have that support. And then just to finish off, there was a bit of a conversation about Rye earlier. Really, really amazing to be able to work with Rye Jazz. I know this isn't in Rye, this is in Bexhill, so forgive me. But it was really working with Rye Jazz to try and protect those live events. There's a lot of finances at stake for everybody over a lot of these events. So it was really brilliant to move the operations outside. It seemed to be incredibly well received, both from those who bought a ticket and those who sat on the beach listening. Really, really nice. And, you know, I just hope we can make this kind of a bit more of an annual event, maybe Bexhill Jazz rather than Rye Jazz, and we can let Rye Jazz still happen in Rye, not steal it off them. But nonetheless, really, really nice. And then just coming out the other side, working with the Footbridge project, seems to be coming along. I haven't been involved as much as I would have liked, but it's really nice to be involved in the judging of that project, especially as I walked across the bridge tonight and it needs a bit of love. So it's really nice to be involved. And then really, really lovely to open a Lexi Marshall show on Saturday. A really nice group of local young artists in their 20s. If you haven't seen this work, or Alexia's in her 20s, we had a really big, nice opening for all her contemporaries, curated by local people, local artists. The work is amazing. They're lino cuts that she makes herself on her studio floor. They're well worth a look. But it's really nice that we've now got that ecology of people from this region with a really high standard of work that might be shown nationally or internationally. So please encourage you. I think I've probably overrun slightly, so apologies, but if there's any questions, I'm really happy to take them.
Thank you, Stuart. I will just say the fact that you were holding the Rye Jazz Festival was hardly mentioned at all last week in Rye. They weren't jealous at all. Are there any questions for Mr. Drew? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a little comment, Stuart. A couple of people did mention to me that they were at the concert for Gabrielle and the other artist, and they bought tickets. They were a little bit miffed that people could see just as well as they could without paying. And I'm not sure how you could do anything about that. Presumably it must, I wasn't there, so I didn't see it, but I imagine it must have been fairly low surrounding to the concert?
Thanks. It's a really fine balance. Actually, the site was cut off with a 6-foot fence, which was all screened. So although probably people could hear on the beach,
They could see,
actually,
they said.
well, if you, but it's a really fine balance, isn't it? Of trying to do that and also trying to be inclusive. But if you wanted to pay the ticket money and have the kind of full experience, then you needed to be inside, really. But I take your point.
Okay, I've just said I'd mention it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Courtell.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask Stuart, while first of all commending the Delaware and all you do generally, could I inquire what you do to attract children and what you do to attract people on low income?
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned the figure of 4,000 people through the digital programs through the pandemic, and also the big art exhibition, which was about 400 participants. So during the pandemic, a lot of that was focused on families, but with a focus on young people too, of a family unit. And typically we would actually see around 6,000 or 7,000 families come through. So actually, given the pandemic, the number's not that far off. And I think also we did a lot of work with the food banks in getting art materials out through the food banks and that kind of, both specifically in Bexhill and then in the wider Rother region too. And again, I think it'd be really interesting to take on board some of that learning from the pandemic and see whether we could do those things again. I would also say that we've just we've undertaken, in fact, 3 major reviews. One is a learning review. It's a fairly comprehensive piece of work looking at actually how we engage with communities, and particularly young people. The other is a diversity and inclusion review, which is just currently ongoing. And then the third is a digital review, again, looking to extend the work that we've done through the pandemic. So I think we're just in the process where myself and the board are working through those and looking how we might adapt the organisation, really looking at community, creativity and skills as we go forward as a focus. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Drew. I'll sort it out. Councillor Poacher.
Thank you. What I wanted to do is stand up and pay tribute to Stuart Drew and his leadership. I mean, it's shocking to close the place totally, because as you know, the business plan is based on live music. So just in one day, 1 million lost. And I just want to pay tribute to you personally, Stuart, and your team, because it's extraordinary how you've pulled everything through. Extraordinary. And Councillor Templey will agree with me. I know that, I mean, we've had regular meetings of the board, and we've to talk about government instructions where you didn't know whether you had to do that or have to do this, or now you're going to do that. No, you're not. And it was incredibly frustrating. I don't know how many pages of risk assessments were done. I did attend the Eddie Izzard events, and it was so well done. The staff were very, very careful, and there was absolutely no fear at all that anybody would get infected. It was brilliantly done. And I think one of the strengths that you have, just by the way, especially because it's our building, I think you need to look at some point again at the list on page 42 of Stuart's report, because that is 7 pages of things that have been improved in the building. And as you know, it's our building. And the list is really impressive of the jobs that have been done. There used to be, the doors had stopped opening, the front doors had stopped opening and closing. So in the winter, you just have to keep them open, and not very good for the carbon footprint at all. So that's just one example of all the things that have been done. But the one word I want to describe, I think, Stuart, is your resilience. At every point, there was never oh my God, it was, well, we can do this and we can do that, and to keep the team with him. And it's been a remarkable achievement. Let's hope we're through it now.
Thank you. Councillor Oliver.
Yeah, I would just support all that Sue has said, but I think the great thing was that the way you kept in touch with members and your communications, and at times I was absolutely exhausted in reading the sort of things that you were planning, what you're looking to do, and it was just so encouraging. And I've said this on several occasions, we are really fortunate in having you as director with a really safe pair of hands, and the way that you engender this to yourself, your staff. And when I went first back into the De La Rue after opening, the staff were happy to see us. There was a smile, everyone was there, and it was just a lovely atmosphere to get going again. So I really wish that everything will go forward now, unhindered with your plans, because they are very, very exciting. And it's such a great boost for Rother, the 1066 offering. And well done, Stuart. Really indebted to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just going to add my thanks for you actually talking to us this evening and presenting us your report. Thank you. And release you from your purgatory. And say thank you very much, Stuart. Thank you.
May I just finally say, return the thanks to you, because it's really lovely working with all of you at Rother. And I think that's what makes it a really nice relationship, you know, across the parties too. So thank you to everybody for your support, and let's hope we can power on through the next phase. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 5, questions from the member of public. I believe none received. Is that still?
There are none, Chairman.
Thank you. Item 6, to answer questions from members of the council. If any, I believe a question has been received. Councillor Osborne.
Thank you, Chairman. It was you yourself who started this a couple of weeks ago when you sat next to me at the end of this table and said, I wish I had more questions from members. So here you are. You know the blame. Yeah, just a simple question really for Councillor Byrne. Are Alliance homes set up in competition with established house building companies locally and nationally? And if Alliance Rotherham Homes develop properties on this council's land, are there any safeguards to protect those properties going forwards from if they're shared ownership, you know, and then someone wants to sell? Is there safeguards to protect it, or do they just go straight onto the open market? Because it would seem to me it would be a loss of an opportunity if the council as such remotely are building homes for local people, possibly at discount, and then in a few years' time they sell it and make a last profit, and then we're back to square one where we are now. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne.
There's a couple of short answers, but that would be rude, so I don't need more detail. Is Alliance Homes in competition? No. Admittedly, if you looked at the financing of Rother Homes, of Alliance Homes, as you've noticed recently, there's this drawdown facility on a project-for-project basis. Now, because Rother has access to finance at quite low percentage, that would, if that was passed on at the same percentage, give Alliance Homes a commercial advantage. That's not going to happen. And in fact, the uplift in that percentage might, under some circumstances, almost provide a bit of a revenue stream. But that's not quite. But certainly the quick answer is no, we are not in any way intending Alliance Homes, rather, to compete with other outside building companies and are taking steps in its financing to make sure it can do so. Second is more interesting. I'm not, certainly on a scheme by scheme basis, we've got to look at the overall financial model. And if some of that is open market housing,
and we sell it as open market housing at open market rates, then it wouldn't work to try and impose any sort of restriction on who can sell it on. However, you're talking about affordable or low cost. Now, if it's affordable, it comes under that category that will be bought by one of our registered providers. The registered providers can offer straightforward economical rent to people who come from our housing needs register, or a variety of shared ownership deals. And those shared ownership deals do ramp up to full ownership over a certain length of time. But at the end of that length of time, you are a householder, you are a house owner. And you stand with all the other house owners, and you have the ability to cash in, if you like, on any price rise. That's not the reason for the scheme. The reason for the scheme is to get people on the housing ladder, to get people already benefiting from any rise in house prices as their percentage of ownership of that house goes up in price. So affordable, no. Low cost is more difficult. It'll very much be on a project by project basis. Alliance Homes has still got to make money. So low cost will likely be in providing the right houses with the right ecological safeguards, all the latest techniques, but doing as economically as possible, so we can offer those for sale. And those that we do offer for sale, I think we could, and I must admit, I'm ignorant of housing law there, I believe we can put a covenant on, if we sell those on the open market, as to how long you have to remain there before you can sell them on. Certainly, that was done by a Conservative government a long time ago. If you bought your council house, you can immediately sell it on. So it strikes me there is that mechanism. But in all honesty, I don't know, but it will be done on a scheme-by-scheme basis. And again, we're not looking for Rother Homes to provide a cheap way of getting around the ordinary commercial realities and letting some people profit. So I hope that's satisfactory. Please do.
Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, thanks to Councillor Byrne for his answer. My sort of concern is Camber Parish Council tomorrow evening, one of their housing officers is coming down to try and, if you like, sell a project to the parish, which is the old Button Green site. Now, excellent looking scheme, 10 units, 5 for low cost of rental, 5 for the open market. Concern that we are getting back, Councillor Hackett and I, getting back from Canberra at the moment, is that those 5 will go straight onto the open market, and that's where they're built for. They will not be bought to be lived in, be bought as investment properties, and they will become more Airbnbs on home rental. Now, I know that's the open market, we can't do that, but the public will want to see that the Rother District Council, who own the land now, have the benefit of the income to potentially provide houses for people in Canberra. We have the same issue in Rye, not my patch, where I live. Councillor Bayliss was only there last week, seeing a successful business in Rye Hire that is on a site which has got notice to move, so we, as a council, whatever, can develop that site, which was the original Rye Borough waste collection site in their yard. And that has got massive ill feeling in Rye over that site with the removal of a business. There's a much loved business. But again, you can't sell it to the public if all you're going to do is build 10 or 11 houses.
Is there a question, Councillor?
So, well, it's awkward making, just trying to sort of,
It's called supplementary question and not supplementary points.
Yeah. Well,
thank you, but your points were made, and yeah, thank you. Be brief, Councillor Byrne.
As I was saying, on a scheme by scheme basis, we will always, where possible, achieve the maximum amount commercially viable of affordable housing. And that affordable housing is by definition protected. Open market, you're right. It either is or isn't open market. And as I say, I don't know how much we can impose covenants on that. But the stuff we're doing on the open market will be to provide more revenue to enable us to do more affordable, more social housing and other schemes. So I can see the problem. All I can say is that I'm sure the directors of Alliance Homes, we have present tonight, will do their best on a scheme by scheme basis to make sure that those houses are not taken out of the housing for other residents equation.
Thank you, Councillor Byrne. It could have been brief. Thank you. Right, agenda item 7. Receive report of the Cabinet on matters for determination by full council at its meeting held on the 6th of September 2021. Cabinet meeting was due on the 26th of July was cancelled. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move the report of the meeting held on the 6th of September 2021 be approved and adopted.
Second.
Thank you. Now, if members wish to reserve an item for discussion, please indicate as I call over this one report, which is 6th of September 2021, CB 21/27, appointment of Chief Executive. Yes, all those in favour of this report, please. All those against? Thank you. At least Mr. Johnson didn't have to leave the room. Thank you. Agenda item 8, to receive a report of the Chief Executive in accordance with paragraph 17A of the Overview and Scrutiny Procedure Rules and paragraph 4 of the Budget and Policy Framework Procedure Rules of any urgent decisions taken at a Cabinet meeting held on the 6th of September 2021. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To move that it be noted that there were no urgent decisions taken at the Cabinet meeting held on the 6th of September.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor President. It says I should now put it to the vote, but I'll accept nodding of heads unless anyone particularly wants to speak against it or vote against it. No, thank you. That's carried. Agenda item 10. Sorry, I haven't got my wording for this one. To receive the report of the Chief Executive on a change of the political makeup of the Council and to consider and approve the revised allocation of committee. Oh, sorry, that's 10, that's 11. Sorry, you have to treat me like a child. 10, to receive the report of the Chief Executive on an appointment of a representative to serve on the Rye Chamber of Commerce. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the report of the Chief Executive be approved and adopted, including the proposed nomination of Councillor Stevens as set out within the report. And I'm delighted that Jeanette has stepped forward in order to take this position and to work closely with the Chamber of Commerce in Rye, and no doubt with the town councillors in Rye and with the officers of Rother District Council. And I wish you well, Jeanette, on this appointment.
Thank you. Seconded. Thank you, Councillor Bayliss. Are there any other nominations to serve on the Rye Chamber of Commerce? In that case, congratulations. Oh, sorry, I've got to go to the vote. All those in favour? Any against? Now I can say congratulations, Councillor Stevens. Item 11, to receive the report of the Chief Executive on a change to the political makeup of the Council, to consider and approve the revised allocation of committee seats and appointments thereto. A revised report was published today, and a non-NEMCON vote will be required, which I will explain if we get to it. Councillor Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to move the report.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Crowchack. Thank you. Owen. Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. The NEMCOM vote means that if anyone should vote against it, we'll have to go to a procedure. So basically, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you. That motion's carried. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman. Only just a couple of points to pick up. Firstly, in the narrative of the report, we talk of, there is obviously reference to Councillor Mrs. Deirdre L. Williams leaving the AOI, and obviously from the table on 4, I see that Councillor Clark has done the same thing. I just wanted to confirm that is the case. And moreover, the Conservative member to be confirmed would be Councillor Jonathan Johnson on licensing and general purposes. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Maynard.
Apologies, Chairman. I believe that's Councillor Brewer.
Well, you confused me then. Thank you. Don't confuse me. Doesn't take much. Agenda item 12. In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 12, consideration be given to the motion to Council, which has been submitted by Councillor Bayliss, as detailed in your agenda. Councillor Bayliss.
I redeclare my interest.
Yes, thank you. And I'll take all the interests that were declared. Thank you.
In our efforts to create new jobs, reduce congestion and pollution, and support the regeneration of our town centres and high streets. Earlier this year, we launched a survey to try and understand why the bus services in Bexhill just don't deliver for local people. We found that the vast majority of Bexhill people who responded to our survey wanted to use the bus more often, but because buses don't operate when people want to travel or to go to places that people need to get to, the net result is declining bus use, bus companies going bust, and services withdrawn. The government has also woken up to how broken our bus services are. They know that without urgent action, bus services will decline even further. And crucially, without efficient public transport options, they will not be able to deliver on their environment targets or on their levelling up agenda. Hence, Bus Back Better, the government's latest strategy for bus services post-pandemic. This new approach of planned service delivery, franchising and new money has the potential to provide a lifeline for many of the services this council relies on to deliver its objectives. Getting people living in Pebsham and Sidley to new jobs in the evening economy in the Bexhill Town Centre, providing an audience for the Delaware Pavilion and customers for town centre businesses and rural high streets is at the heart of our economic development plans. Getting pupils to Bexhill Academy without the need to use a private car will earn the thanks from anyone living with congestion and pollution in Turkey Road or Gunter's Lane. And for many in our rural communities, public transport isn't an option. For a young person in Settlescombe without a car, a job in Battle means a round trip on the bus via Hastings of 1 hour, 48 minutes, whereas in a car, the journey takes 8 minutes. Is it any wonder that we face a climate emergency when people have no choice or viable options? These reports couldn't be more timely. As East Sussex County Council responds to Bus Back Better by drawing up plans for improvements, we need them to be bold and innovative and to seize the opportunities that we set out in the Bexhill Better Buses and Every Village, Every Hour reports. If adopted tonight, the recommendations will allow our officers to pursue service provision with colleagues at county that can make a difference to lives, life chances, and our environment. The current system, driven by market dynamics, has failed to deliver, and we need change. Please support the motion as printed in your agenda. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you, Councillor Bayliss. Seconder, please.
I second it and reserve my right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor John Barnes.
Yes, Chairman. It won't surprise you to know that I agree with quite a lot of what Councillor Bayliss said, but I cannot agree with the wording of the motion as it stands. And I therefore want to move the following amendment. In little a, to delete all words after environment strategy and to insert the word county in front of environment. Sorry, counties in front of environment strategy. To delete little b and re-letter C and D accordingly. And in little d, to delete our corporate objectives and substitute our residents' needs. The reason I've moved this amendment is that while there is a great deal of common ground about the need to actually improve our bus services across the county, a lot of what is built into the detail, particularly of the CPRE report, I'm less familiar with Bexhill and Councillor Bayliss, seems to me not really to be realistic in terms of our particular county. I can tell you at the moment that the existing bus services, even where they run regularly, are not as well used as they might be. And I have a horrid suspicion that if we were to commit to run a bus every hour through the evening, as opposed to a late night bus, you would actually find that you are actually not improving the environment very much, as long as those are not electric powered or hydrogen powered. I would prefer hydrogen. It's because really the motion seeks to tie us down to a number of objectives not determined by this council, but determined by other bodies in detail, without the overview and scrutiny having a chance to go with them, that I want to move this motion back to a slightly more general picture, which we could all support. What we do want to do is to have our officers talking with East Sussex about how you actually improve bus services of our residents. When I looked at our corporate objectives, bus services are not mentioned. It's the residents' needs we really need to put at the forefront of discussions with the county. And I think we should be more flexible and not tie us down, as in subparagraph B, to particular plans which are incredibly costly. I did a quick calculation, about 7.1 billion across the county. And I looked at the 4 areas they've looked at, and although I think they've tried to spread those out a bit, I thought of bits of Cumbria that I know very well, or even bits of East Sussex that I know very well. And I think those costs could well turn out to be an underestimate if you look at the areas where you have sparse population. And again, many of our settlements there are smaller than the 300 which is actually mentioned in the CPR report. I therefore beg to move my amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Barnes. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Mary Barnes. Seconded. Thank you. Yes. So now on the floor to be discussed is the original motion as amended by Councillor Barnes. So we are now debating the changes in A with counties before environmental strategy and the rest of that paragraph moved out. No B and the new B as is the old C, and the new C taking out corporate objectives and putting in residents' needs. Councillor Field.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your clarification. I find it very difficult to talk to this amendment as it's not in front of me, and really it is very, very difficult to do this on the feet. However, I think what I have to say probably is relevant to both parts, whether this stands or fails. I do think the bus issue needs, and I certainly first of all congratulate Councillor Bayliss on her work on the Bexhill bus services and the problems therein. I do think this though needs a report to Cabinet so it can be in much greater detail. HARTAG, the Hastings and Water Transport Advisory Group, which I'm a member on behalf of this council because it falls in with my portfolio, discussed the county's bus consultation. And we do completely agree with Bexhill part of this. Bus services to be used need to be reliable and regular, and it's the predictability of them actually which is the key to their success. We also believe that the county officer who said it's very difficult to do it in a semi-rural county is probably right at the moment, but needs to be looking into the future because actually, if you think about it, a county like ours, of which we are part, is no different from a metropolitan borough. There are people at the edges of it who want to get to a centre where things are happening. The principle is exactly the same, and it's time we set about working out with our partners at the county council and our partners in the districts and boroughs how we can achieve this, either on a county level or perhaps joined together with other authority level. It needs to be done. People do need an alternative to getting in their cars, but it has to be reliable and it has to be regular. Doing a small experiment, as I believe happened, with a nighttime service from Sydney to Little Common, I don't think it was advertised at all. It didn't work. When we had the discussions with Stagecoach before the lockdown, we stressed to them, and they agreed with us, that it needed a long time to work, to let people know it was happening, and that there should be some flagging down element to this service to make sure people weren't waiting at bus stops alone in the dark late at night. So I would happily support this motion.
Thank you. I take your comment about you were talking to either the amendment or the motion because you didn't have.
I did.
You can't consider the amendment. So yes, thank you. Sorry, Councillor Coleman, I did have you shown originally as.
Can I get some clarity, Chair, if I can, because I'd like to speak to the original motion.
Okay, I'll come back. Is there anyone who wants to speak to the amendment, please? Councillor Ganley.
Well, actually, this may well be, my comments really concern the original amendment, so I'd better.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Maynard.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman, and thank you to Councillor Bayliss for bringing the original motion to the Council, and obviously for Councillor Barnes for his amendment. But I think, Chairman, in my opening remarks, I ought to declare an interest once again as an executive member of East Sussex County Council, and certainly I remember when I had the portfolio at East Sussex, just how important that public consultation was around both supported bus services and those that actually became commercialised as a result of that consultation. And in fact, I can remember very, very clearly the fact that in engaging with those bus companies, we were able to secure commercial routes in Hastings that were deemed unviable. And actually, as a direct consequence of that consultation, that work with the bus company enabled us actually to save a significant number of those services. But whilst acknowledging that, I think the devil is in the detail around